said, are you happy?
Hey, yo,
Greetings.
greetings. We welcome to Yeah, but Are You Happy? Katie, you did such a great job in our intro. I want to see if I can match your level of professional broadcasterness. Welcome to Yeah, but Are You Happy? The podcast that addresses the intersection of mental health and creativity. Trigger warning, we're going to be talking about some serious topics on this Twitch channel and on this podcast. I am Lane Ingram. I'm a therapist and also a comedy performer, and I've got mental health struggles of my own. And now may I turn the microphone over to you, Miss Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Stone. I am a copywriter and comedian living in Los Angeles. I have all sorts of things, quote unquote, wrong with my brain. I have bipolar disorder and ADHD, which I'm learning on TikTok. People really think is buzzworthy if you talk about it. But we do have a guest with us today. And we're so delighted. If you listen to the podcast regularly, I think you've met him 3 times already, but we are delighted to have him. Javier Ungo, how are you?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Javi, you're a comedian, you're a therapist.
Indeed.
Are there other things that I should have said? I probably should have given you credits. Javi's one of the most talented sketch writers I have ever met in my entire life. He writes better sketches high on a plane than I do in weeks of focus. And that's my credit. And he hosts Queer Town Fridays on this channel.
Yeah. Javi is, may I say, he's an icon of the Austin comedy scene, and we're just honored to have you here.
Oh my god.
And it's your birthday week.
It is my birthday week.
Oh, happy birthday week. What
Technically, I'm a leap year baby, so I don't get a real birthday this year.
No shit.
Yeah. So I'm turning 6 1/4.
God, crazy. So the friggin' 29th, is that the deal? It's the 20th.
That's the day. That's the day I was born.
Wow, amazing. Well, so what do you do? What are you going to do this weekend?
Last year I had because last year was a real birthday.
Okay.
So I had a real rager of a party. Lots of friends came. We went to a gay bar and danced the night away. It was really truly one of the the most fun birthdays that I've had. And then Corona happened 2 weeks later. So I felt like in my narcissistic brain had the last birthday. So truly this year I'm like no pressure to throw a party. I'm straight up just gonna have a chill weekend. And the one thing that I'm gonna splurge on and treat myself to, my boyfriend's not thrilled about it, but we're gonna rent Barb and Star. I'm gonna pay the $20 and do it.
I heard it's good.
I'm so excited. Yeah,
I recommend it. I'm sorry.
Oh, awesome. I'm very excited. Very excited.
Yeah, we want to see Chloe. We need to watch Barb and Star. Okay. She said, "Okay." You heard her.
Also, my actual birthday is the Golden Globes, and that has been a gay holiday for me every year since college.
Yes.
So
do you just
I'm
sign
real
on and
real
get
excited
angry about who wins?
No, because it's such a ridiculous nomination process. But and who knows what it'll be like this year? But everybody says this, but it's just it's that big room. It's all the celebrities. They're all bunched together and they're all drunk. It's so fun.
It's fun. Yeah, I like the bits, and I like getting to see. It's the only one of these shows where you get to see all of the television. I don't know why I said it like that. The television people. Hello, I'm Christopher Walken. The television people and the movie people all mashed together. It's
totally
fun.
It's like Sandra Oh's waving at Leonardo DiCaprio, and I'm yeah, I love this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. No, that's great. So I forgot that's coming up. I'm a total nerd about that kind of stuff. I watch. Every year gotta watch. I even will try to watch if I think to set the DVR. I try to watch the SAG Awards. That's a fun one too. I think they drink at that one.
Independent Spirit Awards?
I need to watch that. I don't think I've ever actually sat down and watched it, but I should. That seems like it's a fun one.
Yeah, I think they usually mine like just like a cooler crop, not like such a mainstream crop of comedians to host. And they're fun.
Yeah, I think of the SAG Awards and the Independent Spirit Awards as like the art, the ones for actual art.
Yeah, 100%.
What did Chloe just say?
Chloe just reminded me that we did watch last year, and that's right. We watched the Independent Spirit Award, and it was Aubrey Plaza hosted, and it was really good. She's a multi-talented, person.
Young
she was
lass.
really good.
I've watched that Mulaney Nick Kroll monologue from a couple of years ago so many times. I love that.
Yeah. Oh yes. No. We got to. Yeah. This has a total mental health component. I saw that monologue. I didn't see the whole show, but I saw that monologue, and there's a line that still cracks me up, and it's, who named this thing the Independent Spirit Awards? Independent Spirit sounds like the kind of thing you say about someone, someone who, like the funeral for someone who died of a drug overdose. They had an independent spirit. Like that's the kind of way you try to smooth over the rough edges. Like they had an independent spirit.
They were free and wild.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, thank you so much for and the topic tonight. Have we said the topic yet? Do you want to
think so.
Katie, let's have you unveil the topic if that's okay.
Well, we are going to be talking about our relationship to our own body image for the next roughly, we'll probably do like about 3 or 4 episodes on things like body dysmorphia and eating disorders and things like that. Today is going to be sort of a general conversation where we figure out what the most important, or maybe not important, but like interesting or like things that we can actually speak on are on that topic. It is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. That was a coincidence. But there are a bunch of really cool conversations happening on social media. If you get this week on Friday when it releases as a podcast, still log on, check out those hashtags on Instagram. But yeah, Lane and I both did actual, I never call it research when we prepare for a podcast. Preparation, Googling. I copied and pasted things into a Google document.
Wow.
So
fancy.
I'm prepared. Just kidding.
I love it. No, that's great. No, this is a topic that I'm just going to be right out in the open. I was scared of this topic because I knew it would stir up personal things for me. And that's probably like a good thing that we're talking about topics on this show that resonate with us personally, but it didn't change the fact that I just, for personal irrational reasons, was kind of dreading. I've had this weird stress in the pit of my stomach all day today. And Chloe was even like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm nervous about tonight." And I just sounded like a little kid. But I did do research, and I'm prepared to talk it out tonight.
I wasn't aware that it was going to hit you so heavy.
I didn't know either.
I appreciate your doing it.
For sure.
Do you think, do you have any like insights into why that happened beyond what you just said?
You have a great question that is going to be coming up later. And this might be the $1 million question. And that question Katie gave me a little, kind of clued me into something she's going to ask Javi and I later. And I was like, oh, that question hits the nail on the head. That actually summarized what's been, so that will reveal that.
Do you want me to ask it now? Because we could start there. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's still do the mental health check-in, and that'll be a fun reveal maybe when we get a little further into the topic.
What I was thinking is, let's pass around a mental health check-in generally.
Yeah.
And then I'd love to just get a baseline, pass around what our relationship to body image and body image like struggles are. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds perfect.
Do you want to kick us off telling us about just your week and how you've been and how you feel?
Sure. Absolutely. Yes, I'll get us going here. Well, last week we were all snowed in Texas. It was the crazy week of the Texas power grid went out. This something that we'll probably be talking about for years to come. But last week was nuts. So we didn't do a show last week. A lot of people were without power, and it was just a very weird, stressful week. And then this week has been sort of odd, kind of getting back into the swing of things. And I have been really stressed this week doing sessions to kind of make up for the fact that a lot of my clients last week had to cancel because they didn't have power or, you know, water or heat or internet. So this week has been stressful and yet fun and rewarding. Like for instance, I did 9 sessions today, and which is a lot.
Does that mean you worked like 10 hours?
Yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
9 hours just of sessions. And then of course there's also like a lot of work I'm going to have to do tonight before I go to bed. Just fun stuff. But it was actually really fun to get back into the swing of things, and sessions today were a lot of fun. And catching up with my clients has been fun. And this is kind of interesting. This is one of those weird things. I had a client who I haven't seen in a couple of years. They moved to a different state a couple of years ago. I hadn't heard from them in a while. They popped into my head randomly last week. They emailed me this morning, and they're moving back to town, and they want to resume sessions. And it was like, that's like awesome. It'll be like reconnecting with an old pal. So that's kind of fun. And then, but then underneath all that has been quiet dread about the topic tonight. You mentioned, okay, relationship with body image.
I mean, we can wait on that if you.
Let's pause. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, let's come back to that. I'll gather my thoughts.
I did just casually say, like, you guys can tell us how your week was, and you're like, we lived through a national disaster, you California ass bitch. I'm sorry I asked that so casually. Oh, and people are sharing their feelings on it in the chat too. People from Austin, please feel free to sound off about how you're recovering from being entirely abandoned by your state government and only kept afloat by a grocery store chain. And your friends. Javi, how are you doing? You stayed with some friends during the storm, yeah?
Yeah. Monday rolled around. We lost power at like 1 a.m. Monday morning. And yeah, right around, real smart of us. I mean, frankly, we just didn't know what was going on. But like towards the end of the day, we started having conversations about like, do we need to go somewhere? And we have an elderly dog who's going to turn 17 in a few months. And so really, I just started thinking about him, and I was like, we got to get somewhere warm. Started reaching out to friends, and fortunately, like one of my very best friends lives like 10 minutes down the road. Granted, it took us 40 minutes to get there on the ice, but we just like kind of panic packed, grabbed a bunch of stuff, and headed out, and we're basically there for like 4 days. And it was a very bizarre, because like it's like this weird rolling out of a traumatic event, because it was like day one, I was like, this will last too long, and I was like, oh, it's last another day, and I was like, oh, this is bad. Oh, there's no food. Okay. And I was with friends, and like, you know, you're also like, we were having to weigh, like, do we get on the roads? Do we go risk coronavirus and stay with 4 other people in a house? And then at the same time, like I was there with like my best friend, her partner, and her sister and partner. And like at some point, like that night, we were like drinking wine, and we all kind of looked at each other. We were like, we haven't been together in like over a year, and like now we're having a weird forced slumber party. And so it was like there were elements of it that were fun, and then like you felt guilty for that. And you're like, other people have it so bad, and blah blah blah. And anyways, so. I would say this week, very similar. Like I just didn't anticipate it, but it's been hard getting back to normalcy. Because we still had like the boil water. I was trying to strategize like when HEB was going to have food and when we could get food again. It's been a lot.
Absolutely.
So it's been a readjustment for sure.
Yeah. It's so crazy. Yeah. What I mean, talk about unprecedented times. It doesn't get much more unprecedented than the times we had last week where people are dumping snow into their toilets to try to make it flush. Like, that's unprecedented right there.
Dude, when you were just talking about, like, it was weird because we thought it wouldn't be a big deal, and then we started realizing it was going to be a big deal, and then we realized it was going to last for a long time. It was like, fuck you to go through that twice in a year. Like, that was a 5-day compression of the Corona timeline.
Or
Like,
the Trump presidency.
True. I was thinking about how I was like, oh, so January we had like a cute little insurrection, and then February we had like an ice storm. So like 2021 is real chill.
Yeah, no. One of my cousins posted on Facebook Monday morning of last week, like right when the storms were just like fucking, like the moment everything was getting fucked up. He just posted, well, maybe 2022 will be our year. Yeah, it was crazy. But no, getting back into the swing of things this week. Yeah.
Just to share one interaction that happened in the chat that I appreciated. Our friend Tina, who listeners have met, said,
Yes.
I'm having a hard time recovering, but I bought some new plants to recoup. And then our friend Jake's, she said she got them at Garden 17. And then our friend Jake said, my business, Garden 17, lost $40,000 worth of plants. So what we've learned here today is that supporting local business, local Austin business, Garden 17, will bring you joy and help our close friend recoup enormous financial loss. So I just wanted to plug that. This is the closest you'll get to a commercial, is us saying another member of me and Javi sketch troupe sells great plants.
Yeah.
I was being manipulative in the chat because Tina said, I got plants. And I know Jake's in the chat. And I was like, Tina, where did you get plants from? And she was like, Garden 17. And Jake was like, that's my business. And I was like, all right, they're friends now. That's cute.
My week was not nearly as eventful as yours. I did sprain my knee and my ankle by doing just the tiniest roller skating move, and then that's all I was really overworked, but now it's done, and my boss convinced me to take Friday off. So, and by then my knee will probably be better and Sanjay will be out of town, so I'll just walk around naked and order takeout. And so everything's good. I'm so sorry. It was hard. I went over to Allison Webster's house like in the middle of that, and we were all just sitting around like, can we do anything? Can we help in any way? Can we not just send money? Anyway, Javi, why do you look so confused? Oh, is he frozen? He's frozen.
Oh, Javi's frozen.
I was like, oh, he really doesn't like what I'm saying.
Javi is like, he's given us a death stare. Look at him. He's given us that poker face. No, he's frozen. Javi, I hope you come back. While we're waiting on Javi, okay, while we're waiting for Javi, let me just say, I feel so bad that I forgot to ask you this whole time about your ankle. You sprained your ankle.
It doesn't matter. I was learning. Okay, so I was practicing all these like dangerous things on my skates, but that I'd worked on a lot and nothing happened. And I was like, I was practicing moonwalking, which is actually surprisingly easy. Like I could teach either of you to moonwalk today. You could do it on your skates like first day. And then my feet got tangled and my ankle went one way and my knee went the other way and I fell down and I felt really embarrassed. I think we are close to having Javi back. He is regaining slow motion.
While we're waiting for Javi, can I just say your eyes look incredible. Can you tell us about what are we seeing here?
I put stickers on my face. I'm just going to keep bringing up everybody we all mutually know that the audience maybe hasn't met. Stephanie Thorson from Austin moved here today. And I took that as an opportunity to buy new stickers so I could make her a homemade card. And then I put them on my face.
Oh. I love that. That's great. It's a great punchline to that story.
Yeah.
I put them on my face.
We
Javi's
fully
back.
have Javi back. Yeah.
Am I back? I have rough internet issues. Sorry.
No worries. No, could you hear us just now?
I was hearing most of it. I picked up with the Stephanie Thorson part. That's exciting.
Yeah.
We're glad to have her. She's new here. Okay, should we start talking
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I don't know how to phrase this. What, Lane? What are you thinking?
Sure.
What's your relationship? You have to lead today. That's what I
Yeah.
keep assigning you. What is your relationship to positive, negative feelings about your own skin sack?
Sure. No. So I have been overweight since I was in first grade, and the way that I know it was in first grade is that was when someone told me that I was fat. Uh, and that was the worst principal I ever had. No, it was a classmate. It was one of these things. It's like someone explaining to you that like I don't know what would be a good equivalent to that. Like someone that is explaining to you that like you have a blue backpack and everyone else has a red backpack. Like it was just someone like very plainly like, you're fat. And I'm like, I am. And they're like, yeah, see how everyone else looks like us, but you don't. And so and it was that like, oh, I'm an other. And that was, yeah, that was, and I think, yeah, to your point, I think more than anything else about my identity, that's how I felt othered throughout my life. So anytime like any self-consciousness growing up, it was always like, is this because I'm fat, or is someone noticing that I'm fat? Is a fat joke coming? Am I about to do something or engage in something that is going to further other myself because I'm the only fat one in this like group or class or where so yeah, relationship with my body sack goes far back. And yeah, I don't
But
know where to go from there, but yeah.
where do you feel like you're at? And get as vulnerable as you want, or you
Sure.
can tell me to fuck off. Where do you feel like you're at on the day-to-day now? Do you feel like you've made some peace with your body, or do you feel like you still feel like that sometimes, like you're a little first grader?
You know, I don't feel it as much anymore. I think so. When I was in my early 20s, when I was about 21, I lost a bunch of weight and really kept a lot of it off for a long time, where I think I kind of, from about the age of 21 until maybe in my early 30s, I would say like a 10-year span, I was kind of rocking what they might have called a dad bod, but that term had not been invented yet.
I feel like in your wedding photos, engagement photos,
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would have been like 27 years old at that point. So yeah, that was kind of like, sure, a little bit overweight, but not obese. And now I meet the criteria for morbidly obese. And what really helped me not be so hard, and I was very hard on myself for my weight and my appearance, even all through that. I would say I was maybe even harder on myself when I was slimmer, because before I could sort of chalk it up to, I'm fat, everyone knows I'm fat. Yeah. Then when I got slim, it was like, well, today I really like how I look. And then the next day might be, I hate how I look. Why can't I look the way I did yesterday? That sort of thing. Or like going on a vacation, I'd like enjoy myself on the vacation, but maybe I wouldn't eat as healthy on that vacation. So the last day or two of the vacation, the reality would come rushing back of, you're not going to look as good when you go back to work because you fucked up. This vacation just fucked everything. And I think I had that exaggerated sense of that sort of dysmorphia of like, I can feel it. I feel fatter. I feel fatter now. I feel fatter today than I did a week ago, that sort of thing. What helped and hurt the situation was when we moved to Chicago, we were living in such a tiny place, we didn't have a full length mirror. And I stopped caring about my body in the same way. It was a big shift. It was very freeing. And we still really don't have a full length mirror. We have a large bathroom mirror, but it's not the same. So even now we don't. So in a way, it doesn't bother me nearly as much. And yet I need to lose weight. So it's kind of this, it's pick a lane kind of thing. Wink.
I winked
My name's
it's
Lane.
your name.
Yep. Thank you.
No, that's fair. Well, and we've talked on the podcast before about how like your doctors keep, what was it? It wasn't your dentist. It was your allergist.
My allergist.
Something completely unrelated to weight.
Yeah. In a span of 2 months, my primary care physician, my sleep doctor, and my allergist all gave me, and my urologist, all gave me long lectures about losing weight. And I'm like, I get it. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Did that feel like that came from like, I feel a little I don't know what I'm trying to say. I feel like doctors lean on that like a lot. And there's a lot of like kind of fat phobia kind of built into the medical system, and like believe it or not, I've like dealt with that quite a bit with doctors telling me to lose weight. And I don't know. Yeah. Like sometimes, like, I think I've gotten to a point now where I've read up a little bit more on it and talked about it a little bit more, that I do take it with a bit of a grain of salt. Yeah, I don't know.
Gotcha. Well, that's why, I mean, yeah, I'm at the point where it was a slow build to get here. And now I'm sort of like, yeah, on some level, I make a lot of excuses. Like, yeah, I guess I deserve to be given a little bit of a talking to, because I'm not headed in a good direction and I need to make a change. But you are a fit person. That blows my mind that you would get lectured like that.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I meet the criteria for obese. But that's also like, that's like BMI stuff. And like it's such faulty science that like no one should rely on BMI figures.
For the audience at home, Javi looks good. He's got muscles, and I just want to let you know that, so you understand Lane's reaction. And also, you know, if you choose to sexualize Javi, I don't know,
we
Javi,
all
how
are.
at AKA_Javier on Instagram.
Because Javi, also you've kind of, I don't know how big it is, but like you've undergone some body transformation almost since I've known you. I feel like you now.
Sure. Yeah, the story. Yeah, no, I've had body image stuff struggles my whole life. I was I don't know if I ever met the criteria for overweight, but I was definitely always a chubby kid growing up. Always shopped in the husky section at Mervyn's. So that was a part of my story. And I think too, yeah, like bullied is a strong word. I got like soft bullied, like kind of made fun of for being like chubby and a little bit overweight. This was also like, it intersected with being just the least athletic human. And so I have just lots of trauma from PE class and all that kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah.
And then this also all intersects with like being gay and like figuring out that I'm attracted to male bodies, and the intersection of like what I'm attracted to, and is that the thing that I want to be? I want to be the thing that I'm attracted to. So like even I remember this is like in 6th grade for like my birthday, I asked for what was it called? I think it was a Bowflex. It was an ab machine. And truly like a thing that like I look back on, I was like, I was 11 and like that's what I wanted for my birthday, was to get this machine that's truly faulty science, because I wanted a 6-pack. So yeah, so that always like followed me around. But yes, you're right, Katie, about 5-6 years ago, ironically, it was a doctor, but I had like high high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I developed a condition called fatty liver, and so the doctor was like, "You have to do something about this." And that was around the time that I started. I'd always had like an off and on relationship with exercising, but like I got really deep into it. I started going to like this boot camp thing, and really since then have developed like I love fitness. Like that is just an important part of my life, and weightlifting is like a big part of my life, and that's something that's continued to now. And so yeah, I did lose like a good amount of weight and put on. I think also like there was a point where I was like, I'm trying to be really really skinny, and I don't think my body wants to do that. And once I started working out a lot, I was like, I think my body wants to put on muscle. And so I just like started focusing like my fitness in that world. But it's, yeah, it's still very, very much a daily struggle. It's not something that like I think I definitely don't struggle with it as much as I used to, but like I can hear the thoughts, like, on the weekend when we kind of do a lot of takeouts, like I can hear the thought in my brain of like, hey, well, we gotta kind of do a 2-hour workout on Monday, and I get back to it. And I'm like, oh, that's not a healthy thought, so like it's the stuff is still there, and it's definitely still present. And yeah, and there's just like, and especially now with like the homosexuality of it all and Instagram culture and all that stuff is always a part of that.
Yeah. Dude, Javi, thank you so much for sharing with that. That's fascinating stuff, and a lot of it I related to, like having PE anxiety, absolutely, being very unathletic, and yeah, I always felt like at any moment I could be found out if someone if someone passed me the basketball, like, oof. Please God, no. Like
shirts versus skins.
Yeah, that was the worst.
Truly, my first day of high school, at a high school that I didn't go to for very long, but the first day of high school, we had like PE class, and like we were all sitting there. And I don't know, there was just nothing happening. Like the teachers were like, we're still getting organized for this semester, so just sit on the bleachers. And then like one of the coaches came out and they were like, hey, if there's anybody here who doesn't want to do PE class and is willing to do the laundry for the football team, you could do that for this semester and we'll give you PE credit. And mama, it's the first time I sprinted in PE. Like I like flew to the front, and I was like, I will do some laundry. That
sounds so much more fun than high school PE. I mean, I know you didn't have podcasts at the time, but like
but she had PE. A Discman. She had a Discman, and she had Fiona Apple's first 2 albums.
Yes, Tidal, baby, Tidal and Win the Pawn. Yeah.
What a treat. These are also among my favorite albums. We're going ahead and endorsing Garden 17 and the entire Fiona Apple discography on our podcast.
Yes, love that. Yeah, that is too weird. Javi and I not just connecting on the PE stuff and on so many things, but then on the Fiona Apple. That's too real, Javi. Damn you.
Well, and it like places us in time, because I don't think, I mean, there will always be pressure to be skinny, and I don't honestly think it's reduced at all, even though body positivity has gained such a foothold in the culture. Like, I think in some ways it's almost like it allows people an opportunity for performative activism to cover up the fact that they're still doing exactly what they've always fucking done.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, it was like right after like heroin chic and like peak pop star time, and then before the body positivity movement started at all. So I do think, I don't know, I feel like every generation struggles with body positivity, but ours was like very much just like mean, in the light of day, Monica Lewinsky's a fat cow, like whatever. Well, that like woman's a size 10 at most. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like in gay world, you were talking about kind of those like different cultures, like the like obsession with like muscle and musculature, like really skyrocketed after AIDS. because it was this appearance of health.
Yeah.
And that's what was sort of like being perpetuated, right? Because
Mm.
we'd seen all these images of people who were dying of HIV and AIDS, and they were just
Yeah.
like emaciated.
Wow.
And so like that was like a real shift in the culture that that frankly still happens, it still exists.
Holy shit.
I
I
had
had
never-
no
yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Fascinating.
That makes sense and is
yeah.
horrifying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's,
My
yeah.
body has to be perfect so I can prove I'm not about to die is a
Right.
very bleak situation to be put in. And I'm sorry.
Katie, no, let's have you go. We went around the round table.
Yeah.
Let's hear from you on this.
I don't know. I think that one of the reasons we want to talk about this, and Javi, I'm sure you might remember, like the reason we invited you is the last time you co-hosted with me when Lane was out. We had come to male body image, and you were like, "Oh, if you do a series on that, I'd like to be a part of it." And I do think that for us as comedians, I just have more like cis male friends at this point in my life than I do in a lot of points because of like stand up and improv. And I love them very much, and I see this need in my cis male friends to like talk about their bodies in a way that the culture isn't providing a like conduit for. And obviously, like Javi, you've talked about like as a gay man, there's all these requirements. And what I learned through my research, which we can talk a little bit about, is also just like as cis people, we are so lucky even as we struggle because we get to accept any part of our bodies. But for me, like, I don't know, I guess my story is very standard for what we're presented in the culture about like who gets eating disorders or whatever. I never had one, although it's like my mom has always thought she was fat. I think sometimes in my life, she's definitely qualified as overweight or obese. Sometimes in my life, she was at my exact size now and thought she was fat. And so I think that kind of colors a lot of my lenses. Like there was always, she's a fad dieter. There was always a fad diet happening in the house. We were always eating, and we weren't required to do it as kids, but she was always trying something new. And like she doesn't cook, and we're from the suburbs, and like nutrition was not on our radar at all. So we were a soda and fast food house for sure. But I was, to be frank, I was always skinny and I always thought I was fat. I had a really high metabolism throughout those nutritional issues. It was also like, I don't know, I've been obviously with this new Britney documentary, and my ass keeps bringing up the fact that I did just read Jessica Simpson's autobiography, first book I've finished in 5 years.
I just did that
I
with
think
Mariah Carey. I just wanted to say that.
Wait, did you read Mariah Carey's? Is that what you just said? I missed it.
Yes, I highly recommend it.
Oh my god, I want to read that one.
It's really good. And listen to it because she sings. When she gets to the lyrics that she writes, she sings them, and it's fantastic.
Okay. But yeah, I just think that was my puberty, was like that girl pop boom where every one of them now is like, and I was pressured to weigh 90 pounds. You know, the Olsen twins are my age roughly. They both got eating disorders. I really think there was this like pressure to be a normal girl who was also a size 00 in the public eye. And I just felt, so I don't know, like I've never been happy with my body, but I've never had an eating disorder. I think I just have that normal pressure. Well, and something, I don't know, like I definitely come from a family where I think now people know not to tell girls that they're pretty before they give them any other compliments. But like when I was a kid, nobody knew that. Everybody told me I was pretty before they told me anything else. And like some of the research I did today was like, the more you tell a kid they're pretty, the more likely they are to hate their body because they think that that's the thing that gets them positive reinforcement. Again, not a big deal to be told you're pretty all the time, but I just don't think people were very creative when they gave me compliments as a child. That's all.
No, that's fascinating. That's another that fits that last part. It fits in that category of that makes sense, and that is horrifying. That's good. That should be the new catchphrase.
There was one thing I thought I'd bring up because it might become relevant at some point in this series is, and I'm not throwing this guy under the bus at all. It was at a time in my life when I was in a really volatile place, but I did, in my mid-20s, date a guy who really needed perfection from every aspect of his life. And we had slept together once and he told me he didn't want to date me. And for some reason I was like, it was also like after a big breakup and I was in definitely a hypomanic phase. And I went low carb and started running every day. And I got down to a lower weight. I was 125, which for a 5'6" person is like pretty low. And then I maintained that while we were dating. And then when we broke up, I got very depressed, so I went on antidepressants. But and I've talked about this before, because I'm bipolar, I was basically in an extra hypomanic state for a long time, and the antidepressants lowered my appetite. So I got down to under 120 pounds for a little while, and it was a weird mix of everybody telling me I looked fantastic, and also fashion is made for hyper skinny women. I continue to believe this is fucked up and I don't think it's right. But if you want to be a fashion person, the best accessory you can have is being thin. So like clothes looked great. That's fucked up. Sorry, I don't mean to glorify it at all. So I was getting a lot of positive feedback. And then once I was healthy again, I gained back all that weight. Unfortunately, I had a few friends just cue me in like, we were starting to get worried, so this is good. And I do genuinely appreciate that. I don't think it's always productive the way people talk about, but I think when I revealed like I'm embarrassed I'm gaining weight, a few friends were like, you were thin for a while and then you were thin, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, I got this shirt when I was really thin. It doesn't fit my boobs. You guys are only seeing the top half for a reason. Okay.
I'm wearing the sweatshirt that I don't wear in public because it's kind of tight. But it looked good in this square.
Oh yeah.
No, I remember.
I was gonna say that it's interesting about compliments, because I was thinking about like a thing that like I've learned just like working with therapists, and like our clinic has had various eating disorder specialists. And I remember one of the first therapists who actually like taught me like just like my introduction to like eating disorder treatment. She had a big old sign on the door that just said, just don't talk about other people's bodies. And I just like never had thought about that. I had never just thought about like, you know, you compliment people like, hey, you look like you've lost weight. Hey, you look, and I just never thought about that at that point. And then when I was like losing weight, it was very funny, not funny, but it was interesting to see how people like interacted with that. And I had like one coworker who, bless her heart, I mean, I work with a lot of therapists, and they were like, Javi, I hope you don't take this in the wrong way. And I'm sorry to be commenting on your body, but it does look like your body has become different in the last few months. And I was like, yeah, I've lost some weight. And she goes, okay, you look nice. And I was like, thank you. I think there's a compliment somewhere in there.
Well, I'm sure it's also like, I'm checking in. Well, that was one thing that was a little freaky for me, was like when I was really skinny, my dad, well, it was like when I was like lowest rung, healthy, skinny, my dad checked in, was like, you're really thin. And then just kind of looked at me. I was like, yeah. And he goes, is that on purpose? And I think he was worried because he has diabetes, that he has type 1 diabetes that he got diagnosed with at 40, which is super rare. And so he was like, do you also have late onset emergency diabetes? But people just, I don't know. It's weird. I was thinking about, okay, again, I'm just going to keep processing through late 90s cultural icons. Both Lindsay Lohan and Amanda Bynes, clearly icons of the public breakdown. Both became very addicted to stimulants after they had a period where they lost weight by accident and kept getting complimented on their weight loss. And I think about that a lot when I'm trying to compliment people on how they look, is like, I don't want to get you addicted to Adderall because you look nice or thin or whatever today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a double-edged sword because I can remember at times in my life working out and trying to eat well and just busting my ass to try to lose weight. And that first compliment just hits so good
Mm-hmm.
because I remembered like even at my peak like early 20s metabolism, I can remember feeling like having to bust my ass for and eat well for like 4 straight weeks before anyone notices
Yeah.
any difference. And that
Yeah.
is the longest fucking 4 weeks to just sweat and just the all of the hard work that goes into it and sacrifice. And I'm just waiting like someone, and maybe I just noticed like a look, you know. But yeah, I remember having like a boss say, well, have you been working out? You know, it looks like you've lost some weight. And I'm just feeling like, yes.
Yeah.
And I get that that's different, maybe being a guy, you know.
No, I think
You know,
that's super. I don't know. One thing that sticks with me is like, so Adele lost all that weight last year, and I feel like it was the first celebrity to lose a bunch of weight after like body positivity became so ubiquitous. And so when she lost weight, people were sharing photos, and other people were like, "Don't tell her she looks good. What if you make her anorexic?" And a friend of mine had a tweet that was basically just like, "She worked really hard for this. I have been fat all my life, and all I'm waiting for is for someone to give me that compliment."
yeah,
And that's not a good thing. I'm not endorsing it, but I'm saying don't deprive her of that because
right, yeah,
it will make her happy. And I don't think it's up for you to decide whether you tell her something, you know. And I don't know. It was like, it is such an interesting.
I have
yeah,
like very crystal memories of compliments.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And please don't take this the wrong way. This is a very positive thing. I very specifically remember having lunch with you, Katie, on the drag, and I
Mhm.
said something about a boxing class that I was in, and you said, "Oh, you box?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's like a main component of like my fitness life." And you were like, "That explains a lot about your body." And I was like, "I'm putting that in the bank of compliments that will motivate me for another week of workouts."
yeah.
Well, and I don't want to, for both of you, I'm like, I don't want to say anything I know about you personally on a podcast, but I do vaguely remember that day, because I think I remember this conversation. You mentioned something about like negotiating your relationship with exercise to make sure it was healthy. Um, and I don't know. I don't know anything about like compulsive exercising or anything like that. It didn't seem like that was what you were saying.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I mean, I think that's been a process. I think there have been moments where, like, I mean, there was a time where I was working out twice a day, and like justifying it in my head. Like, I was like, well, I lift in the morning and then I take a boxing class at night. So, like, I'm doing resistance training in the morning and cardio in the afternoon, or I'm doing a yoga class or whatever. But, like, yeah, I think now I do like I don't know, like it's interesting. Like I think a lot of like the fitness stuff that I do now, and it's been fucking weird with the pandemic.
when
Because
you live
oh
with a
actually,
trainer.
well yes, and my boyfriend's is a personal trainer too. And so like when pandemic first hit, and obviously gym shut down, and my boyfriend couldn't work, and so we were like, all right, we got to like start working out here at home.
Mhm.
Like let's see what fitness equipment we can scrap. And I was like, oh, over my adulthood, I've collected a lot of fitness equipment. And so we had like a mini gym like in my carport. And truly, like I lost like quite a bit of weight. I was like, I'm gonna fucking come out of quarantine in prison shape. Like we got 2 dumbbells and a jump rope, and like I'm gonna look great. But but I mean, I think yeah, I have to I have to check in with myself. Actually, like this week is a good example. Like obviously last week we were snowed in, so I didn't work out, and I had that nagging like, ooh, you haven't worked out in a week. And so Sunday or Saturday, like me and my boyfriend, we like to go to his gym on the weekend, and we usually get at least one workout in on the weekend. And I could feel inside of me okay, I've got to plan workouts every single day this week to make up for last week. And I very actively like had like workouts booked for Tuesday. And after working out on Monday, I was like, nah, I feel kind of beat up. And I was like, yeah, you took a week off. Like, you have to ease into this. And so I was like, nah, you need to sleep in. And that's like something I don't think I would have done 2 or 3 years ago. I would have been like, nah, you got to push through and get that workout in. But I was like, no, what are you gonna do? You're like, you're in your mid-30s. You're gonna hurt yourself. Like, just take the day off. It's fine. Go for a walk. So I think like, yeah, it's a constant process. And like now it's like I'm trying to make sure that like what I'm doing is not just for weight loss. What I'm doing is not to just look good with my shirt off. That it's also like I'm trying to just be healthy and just taking care of myself.
Yeah, being healthy. That would be nice. That's what I would say. Yeah, for me it was like that moment. This was such a, like, when I started losing some weight in my early 20s, one of the most incredible feelings was being able to go to a clothing store and buy clothes that didn't feel like prescription clothes. Like, I'm relegated to these sort of, what are the stores like? You can't wear anything fashionable really and be obese, or at least you couldn't in 2001 2000.
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask you, because I think we're of similar age, and like when I was a kid, baggy clothes was the shit.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's true. Yeah,
Jinkos and baggy clothes, and I was like, I'm fine. Like, at least I'm like, hiding it. And then like I remember like looking around in the early 2000s, like looking around at my peers. And this is like the time I'm coming out, so like I'm starting to go to gay bars, and I'm looking at other gay men. And I was like, no, I think people are starting to wear tighter clothes. I don't have tight clothes. I don't want to wear tight clothes. It took so long for me to like break out of baggy clothes mentality.
that's amazing. No, I was wearing a lot of baggy jeans, and I was doing a lot of the like sort of like baggy concert shirts, baggy like flannel shirts, like kind of, just trying to hide my like a baggy hoodie, that sort of thing. But then around 01 02 I lose this weight, and suddenly I can wear just normal clothes, and it was this freeing feeling of like, oh, you mean I can go into a store, like, what would be a good example? I can go into a store like the Gap and try on clothes. Like, that was an illuminating feeling. Like, I can take clothes off a rack at like a store like regular people go into the dressing room and actually kind of be like, oh, this is how it feels to actually buy a shirt that costs more than $9 and kind of like how it looks, and be able to think like, oh, I can go on a date in a shirt like this, and then it's like, I can date. That's maybe even someone might actually go out with me now. And anyway, that's
such an interesting like paradox capitalism has created for itself. Sorry to be that girl for a minute, but like, okay, there's a lot of pressure on us to be thin because that's how things are sold to us. But then at the same time, they sell clothes. So I don't know men's sizes at all, but I can give you this for women, and I'm sure it's similar for men. Women's straight size, so like not plus size clothing, goes from 0 to 16. The average American woman on a bell curve is a size 12. So the amount of people who fall outside of that bell curve, who just don't have clothes sold to them from major retailers, is that is such an enormous amount of money. That is so much money you're losing. And why? Because you don't want. Why? Are you incapable of making clothes that fit bigger bodies? Because that means you're a bad designer. Like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, the money loss aspect of it, the fact that at the Gap, before you lost weight, you didn't feel comfortable. It's like the Gap is made for the average American,
the average person,
and the average American is not skinny.
Yeah,
anyway,
for sure.
The money
sure.
lost makes me extra mad because I'm like, it's the fucking people who say that we should care most about money who also say they're not going to make clothes for people over.
Right. No, it is so frustrating. Yeah, it's crazy. Like being able to, I'll tell you, it was even I think what was even more sad, it was American Eagle Outfitters. Does that date me? I don't know if that's even still a thing now.
I think people still buy jeans from them a lot, but that was my high school for sure.
Yeah, but being able to like go to a store where there's like club music on, and it's like I can buy a shirt at the club music store and it fits and it actually looks like what would be considered cool. Okay, yeah.
Oh, I remember like there was a hierarchy of like stores that I felt that I could go into, and I was like, Abercrombie out the door. Come on, like I gotta walk past those like shirtless dudes in the front. Like, no, I can't. That's. I was like, American Eagle, maybe, but I don't think that's me. I think I'm an Old Navy girl. I think that's where clothes actually fits me. But yeah, no, I think I would say before 6 years ago, I wouldn't wear a t-shirt in public. Like I have to have a shirt over it. And like before 2 years ago, I wouldn't wear a tank top in public. And like I look at pictures of myself back then and I was like, Javi, you were crazy. Like it was fine. You looked fine in a t-shirt, but just like,
dude,
that shit is just.
Yes. Javi, when I look back at pictures of me in my 20s, like after I lost weight, I was like, why wasn't I just naked all the time? Like, why was I was sweating. I was like totally in my head over 5 pounds here, 5 pounds there. But I was maybe 60 pounds lighter than I am now. It's like I was doing great. I should have gone so much easier on that expression is so true. It's like take photographs of yourself because one day you'll look back with kinder eyes. And it's like, it's like I should have done everything back then. That was my sweet spot. I'm trying to get back there. I haven't totally given up on myself, but yeah.
It's weird too because the camera really does add weight. And like now we're getting better about like every camera has that 3D option that makes it like a little bit more true to what you look like. But a friend told me when I weighed whatever, 120, she was like, get your headshots taken. You're gonna gain weight. And they'll look more like you if you get them taken now. And granted, my limbs look fucking insane. They're so thin. But my face really looks like it does in real life. So I don't feel dishonest using them as my headshots.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my advice to anyone who's temporarily thin. I got them from Erin Holzenbach, the indoor lady. Recommend.
That's the third commercial.
Yeah, we're picking official sponsors who don't pay us. If you want ice cream, go to Street Ritual Ice Cream Shop on Airport Boulevard. I say that every episode. Yeah. Okay. What? Oh, Lane, we don't have that much time left, so I want to ask the question that you said could shape things. Also, while I have you vote. So as white folks, well, researching this, I just generally learned, I was like, everybody's problems are different. I don't know shit. One thing I was reading about was like in immigrant families, food can have a different meaning. It can be a means of showing love or saying sorry or whatever in a way that for white families, it often isn't. And that can shape the journey of someone with body dysmorphia or an eating disorder in a way that doesn't necessarily happen in like white Americans. And I was wondering if both of you, Layden, your mother is from Mexico, Javi's from El Salvador, like, do you guys feel like that impacted your relationship with food at all?
Yes. Let me just say my mother is not from Mexico. She is of Mexican descent.
I'm so sorry.
No worries.
That was my bad.
No. No. It was my great grandparents who came over just to be fully honest and above board. But yes, Mexican American, yeah, of 100% Mexican descent. My mom,
Texican, if you will.
yeah, Texican, if you will. But no, that question just cut right to my soul. I jokingly and also not so jokingly said to Katie, like, "Damn it, why must you look into my soul with a question?" That question alone just kind of said so much. And yeah, and I think one of my absolute earliest memories of all time is being very attached to my mother. And my mother stayed at home for the first couple years of my life. And maybe I'm like 2 years old, maybe 3 tops. And my mother is getting back into the swing of things and goes to her aerobics class. She used to do aerobics, or specifically jazzercise. Jazzercise, yeah. I was born in 1980. Yeah. So yeah, so my mother had been doing jazzercise, then had me, took some time off from jazzercise. Then she's starting to get back into the swing of things and takes me to a little, like, I don't even know if nursery is the right term, just a little, like, a playpen for the toddlers off in the corner. And I remember being so confused, like, mommy's going to be over here. You're going to be able to see mommy. She's going to be just 20 yards away from you, but you need to stay here in this cordoned off area. This was all, like, very foreign to me. Like, but what? We're normally at home watching All My Children.
Yeah.
Why would we be here? And it was, and I remember my mom said, if you just be a good boy and stay here, we'll go to Jack in the Box after this. And I remember sitting there, and after jazzercise, we went through the drive-thru at Jack in the Box, and I vividly remember it was a sausage croissant, and it was the most delicious thing I'd ever tasted.
Incredible.
And thus began the lane that you know and love today. That's where it all started, my friend. It all goes back to that. So I'll pause for a moment, and then I want to hear, if that's okay, Javi's response to the Katie question.
Yeah, it's interesting. My mother is an immigrant, but my mother also, I'm like pausing my words as if she knows what a podcast is. She grew up a little spoiled, I would say. Like, she grew up in a house where she had, like, maids and such. So when she married my dad when they were 18, and they immigrated here, so when my mom got here, she wasn't a cook, so she actually doesn't like cooking. But she's a really good cook. She learned a couple of recipes from my dad's side. But I would say, that said, I mean, she's like a very motherly mother. So, like, it is a lot of, I do remember from, like, a young age, did you get enough? You should be eating more. You should have another plate. You need to make sure to finish your plate, like, all that kind of stuff. And like I've gotten better in the last few years, but I'm a notoriously fast eater. Like, I inhale food. And I really wish I didn't do that. But then I was thinking about other things, like in my family, particularly with my mother. Like, my nickname in the family is Gordo and Gordito, which you roughly translate as little fat kid. And it means something so different in Spanish. Like, it is a term of endearment. She also calls me cuchitril, which is a slang word for a little pig. These are all things that, like, in high school, like, were all started dawning on me, and I was like, God, I had a lot of, like, fat related nicknames. Like, what's up with that? And I was like, I don't know, it's just what we called you. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's in there. I'm sure it's certainly affected my relationship with food.
And that's not necessarily, like, you don't have to have had that experience at all. I guess the reason I was curious about it, well, and I told you guys this before we started talking, but yeah, I don't know. It's been a shift in my perception, like, sort of being welcomed into an Indian family, because there is, and this was, oh yeah, and I had told you guys, like when I woke up this morning knowing we were going to do this episode, my phone prompted me to read this article like from an Indian writer about the relationship between food and eating disorders in the Indian community. And they're basically saying like, you're pressured to eat all the time and then be thin. And then literally I get a little upset. Like at Christmas one year, I went home with Sanjay, and the amount of food I would be expected to eat because it was the only thing that was polite was significantly more than I love the food. Sanjay's mom is like the best fucking cook in the world. It's incredible food. I wanted to eat as much of it as possible, but I would become very sick. It was I would decline food and it would still arrive in front of me, and thus now I'm going to insult the person who made it if I don't eat it. And it was a really interesting thing. And so then I was reading, but then at the same time, they all feel very comfortable commenting on my weight. All this, there are a million positives of their family. I'm not judging this behavior at all. They check in when I sprain my ankle. They've checked in every day, which makes me feel very loved and supported. But at the same time, this is like a world I'm adjusting to, of like, and literally I started getting curious. I was like, can I say we can't talk about my body? The article was basically like, there is no saying we can't talk about my body in Indian culture. And I was like, that's good to know. I won't try it.
There is no, that's amazing. Well, no, I do relate to that. It's funny. Javi, I gotta mention this. I gotta shoehorn this in now. One of my favorite stories from my godfather, God rest his soul. He would tell me this story about him and his brother and sister, and these were all my mom's first cousins, so they all lived on the north side of Fort Worth, which I always thought that must have been a cool way to grow up. They grew up in the old neighborhood in Fort Worth, and it was all these Mexican Americans living like an extended family, and it's like so and so and their kids lived in this house, so and so lived in this house, and all the kids would be playing in each other's, and then all the kids would go home to their respective homes for dinner. But and anyway, it's just like, what a cool way to have grown up. But my godfather would tell this story of how he had his older sister, my Aunt Gloria, that the parents would dote on her because she was the only girl out of their three kids, and they would call her muñeca, Spanish for doll, their little doll, and that the boys, my godfather and his brother, would behind her back call her manteca, which is Spanish for like butter, like a butter ball, like. And what's funny is she, out of all of us, grew to be like, she's like tall, thin, is like the one who has like zero weight, and all of like the men, we all grew up like real chubby with the dad bods and stuff.
I was thinking about that when Javi was telling his story, because my parents, literally, it was before he could process memory, but for like the first 4 years of my brother's life, my parents called him Fat Boy. And if you had known him from ages 4 to like 21, he was weirdly skinny. He's like over 6 feet tall, and I swear to God, he weighed less than me for a really long time. But then I was the C-section. He was born, I think, over 10 pounds. My mom had to get an enormous amount of stitches. He was huge, and I was a little average size C-section baby, so my parents called me doll face.
Face,
that's fucked up.
Fat boy, I like to say I'm a double star gay.
Oh baby,
that's funny. But no, it's funny. So my mother grew up with interesting food issues. See, this is why I elected to just not have kids, because it's like everyone in my family history, we're all just bound and determined to like, we're gonna overcorrect on the kids so hard they always manage to steer into an iceberg every generation. So my mother grew
And like being a therapist like is so obvious, right? Like it's like,
Yes.
oh, that's
I've noticed
very
that
specifically where this comes
in
from.
my family.
So much over. But my mother grew up with all these food issues. My mother claims that growing up, her mother, who I've always known as a saint, my abuelita is like just a saint, it can do no wrong, is so amazing. But back the clock up 65 years, and she apparently was a tough mom on my mom, and my mom grew up with all these body issues and food issues around never really getting compliments from her mother on her appearance. I think my mother was really wanting compliments from her mom, especially like when maybe at certain pivotal moments when maybe my mom's going to like a school dance and is all fixed up, and it maybe would have been appropriate for a mom to say, you look gorgeous, you look wonderful. I think my mom craved that and never really received it. And my mom, this was a very 1950s thing, but it was like you were forced to eat everything on your plate and drink a full glass of milk with every meal. And my mother hates to be forced, I think, to eat things she doesn't want to eat, and also hates drinking milk, especially with food. She will drink milk in the form of like cereal, but like doesn't drink. And my mom hated that so much that I think when it came to me and my sister, we were given a lot of freedom when it came to eating, but eating also was kind of, it was like, it was kind of this blessing and a curse. It was like, you had a good day, let's celebrate with some good food. You had a bad day, let's cheer ourselves up with some good food. And it was a lot of my early years, a lot of fast food and soda. And then when I started getting a little bit older, my parents started to get more health conscious. But by then, all I had known for years was either like really rich, delicious Mexican food at home or fast food. And then suddenly like baked salmon was starting to get introduced. And it was just like, oh, the moment I learned to drive, I'm just going to go to McDonald's for dinner. And that's what I started doing. And that was not a good move. So it was this anyway, overcorrecting. It was wild. Was not, I guess, not given a lot of guidance, I think, when it came to like how one should eat. It was sort of like, don't force him. If he doesn't want to eat vegetables, don't force him. And in retrospect, it might have been nice, maybe not to have forced me, but maybe just some guidance like, vegetables are actually really good for you. Maybe this is, healthy.
To your point about overcorrection, I had noticed and then read something that confirmed. So basically, our grandparents' generation all lived, well, I don't know, like they all lived through the Depression, right? They all lived in the 30s. And then, so when, like, for instance, my grandmother, when she had kids, she had food scarcity her whole life. So she never questioned, am I giving them too much food? Am I giving them too many calories? And so there was no knowledge of like, now we need to get green vegetables in here because we're eating too much. And so like the boomer generation effectively grew up with this more is more mentality. And then they started realizing at some point, like, oh, fuck. But at that point, we were already on this earth and we had already lived several years. Like, I have a very vivid memory of telling my mom, like, I said a healthy snack and you're eating a hot dog or something like that. And she was like, hot dogs are healthy. And then I was just like, there is a generational divide here.
Yeah,
I
for sure
did not fully understand until this moment.
My mom will be like, I'm trying to eat healthy, so I had like a little bit of cereal and a banana, and then I'm having like 3 pieces of lettuce at night. And I was like, Mom, that's not a diet. Like, that's not how that. And I like tried to explain, like, cut back on carbs, like cut back, like, just like not cut them out, but just like cut back on them, and like does not compute. And I was like, all right.
Yeah, and like, okay, it's so fucking bizarre. Literally, lobbies pay for the food pyramid. The food pyramid is not based on science. It's based on who lobbied to get the food in there. And that is insane to me. Like, we do not look at the food pyramid. The dairy amount is insane. The dairy lobby is incredibly powerful. It's wild.
But bacon, you know about bacon? That bacon, you know about bacon?
Bacon.
It was not associated with breakfast ever up until the like pork producers of America were like, how can we move more bacon? And it was a calculated PR move in like the 40s maybe, or the 20s. It might have been the 20s, to really push associating bacon with breakfast. Isn't that crazy?
What, dude, we learned recently that, or what we learned recently, I learned in grad school that Kit Kats are a very popular mid-afternoon snack in many countries because they ran a successful campaign to pair it with coffee in your afternoon. I was just like, that's wild.
God, Kit Kats are so good. Can we go get Kit Kats right now?
Good. Kit Kats undervalued.
Oh, man.
Another position of this podcast.
Speaking
hey guys,
of,
are you needing a mid-afternoon break?
Dude, no joke. I was listening to one of the early episodes of Conan Needs a Friend, and I'm at work, and Conan did one of those mid-episode live reads, and it was for Twix, and it was like, need a break at work? Get a Twix with a cup of coffee and use the Twix to stir your coffee or something. I immediately dropped everything I was doing, went to the vending machine downstairs, got a Twix, and had a cup of coffee.
Context, baby.
God damn it.
That's amazing.
I'm such a sucker. God, it was good though. It was delicioso. This is good. This has been a fun. Let me just say, this has been a lot more fun than my anxiety was telling me it was going to be, and it's been cathartic. So thank y'all for being such good friends and supportive on this bad boy.
Thank you. And I don't feel like we got too deep on anything, but we got a really good overview of a lot of stuff.
I think we have a lot. We didn't even get into like stats and research really, but maybe this is what we needed to do, because like you said, this is such a big topic. It would be silly to think we could cover it all in just one episode, and so kind of like making it a multi-part thing. But how about Javi? If you don't, are there things that maybe you had wanted to say about tonight's topic and it just never quite had a chance here?
We have a little bit of time. Yeah.
I honestly, I was very prepared to just like totally just talk about being gay and body image, and I feel like I just like touched on it. I don't even know where to like dive in.
Did I write any good questions down? Oh, I wrote down a bunch of stats about LGBT populations.
Tell me.
Okay. Oh, I have a bunch of, if you want stats on anything, there's a bunch of really interesting stats on like BIPOC communities, because we definitely think of eating disorders. Everything I've ever seen is a fucking thin white woman. That is not representative of the face of eating disorders. But anyway, okay, so LGBT stats. Gay men are 7 times more likely to report binge eating, and 12 times more likely than heterosexual men to fast or take diet pills. And then the rest are, transgender college students experience disordered eating at 4 times the rate of cisgendered classmates. 32% report using their eating disorder to modify their body without hormones, and evidence indicates clinicians are inexperienced in treating any disorders Any eating disorder is compounded by gender dysphoria, and non-binary people may restrict their eating to appear thin, consistent with the common misconception of androgynous people as thin in popular culture.
Oh,
so those were
shit.
sorry, not many of those are related to something you've actually experienced, but that was just some of the data that I found interesting.
File all of that under the category of that makes sense and is horrifying. Boom. Hashtag it. But no, Javi, yes. Javi, throwing it back to you like a hot potato. Or sorry, Katie, what?
Do you feel like, yeah, I guess maybe like just to try and provide like context or timeline in case it helps like extract some stuff for you. Do you feel like coming out created any like breaker in your like eating or self-image, or is that something that you sort of felt like you were enmeshed in over time? Oh, and you mentioned, so these are two different questions, but I want to come back to it. You mentioned Instagram culture, and I thought that was really interesting and powerful because I've heard that from multiple gay podcasts that is something that has impacted the idea of body image in the gay community. So that's
yeah. I was thinking about this yesterday. There's I'm very active on, not active, not that I tweet a lot, but like I just follow a lot of like prominent gay people on Twitter. There's people refer to it as gay Twitter. And so because I follow so many and I like so many just like gay related stuff, like that's just my algorithm. It's just very gay on my timeline. And every fifth tweet is about wrestling. So it's a weird timeline. But yeah, this happens like at least once a week. There will be some random guy who decides to come out, but like posts a shirtless picture and instantly goes viral within gay Twitter. And it is this weird, like, welcome to gay Twitter, you're hot and you know how to use memes. So now you're like officially a part of gay Twitter. And I was like, what? It's so fascinating. It's just like the cachet that has. So I would say like, I think honestly, coming out just like intensified body stuff. Like instantly I was like, oh, I have to be like skinny and hot and have a six pack to date. And like truly like prevented myself from dating till past college and past grad school because I just never felt like I was like skinny enough basically or fit enough to do it. So it's definitely like compounded by that. It's weird because there's like the flip of that, which is like within the queer community, there's like within like with gay men, there's like a bear community, right? Yeah. And there is like a community that really appreciates that kind of stuff. So like, you know, here in Austin, like when I go out with my friends to gay bars, there's usually a point in the evening where my friends, who I happen to have just like a good number of like hot friends, who are just like, hey, it's like midnight, we're going down to the basement and taking our shirts off and dancing for the rest of the night. And I'm like, cool, I'm gonna have one more drink and I'm out. Because like I'm not doing that. But when I was in New York, okay, I had brunch with you the next day. But when I was in New York, we went to the Eagle, which is a traditional like bear and leather bar. And I went with a bunch of friends, straight guys. But we like went in, and it's the first time that I was like, I think I'm gonna take my shirt off in this bar, and was just like lavished with compliments and like lavished with attention. And I was like, this is wild. I've never experienced that. So it's like a weird, I don't know, it's just there's these weird poles kind of within the community poll. So I don't know. Yeah, that's what comes to mind when you ask me about that.
Well, no, and I think that's so interesting because what you're saying is so true. Like you almost like you take on an identity, you know, casually or whatever, of like that's based on your body type and even your body hair.
Oh, for sure.
And that's not really something like if you did that to women, we would be like, fuck you. Like I'm dating you because I'm into very thin women. I'd be like, drop dead, even though I've known that about most men I date. But like that must be weird to, well, because also, okay, whenever I did gain back the weight I had lost when I was really thin, I was aware that the past two men I dated me because I was wayfish. And so I was like, oh, they are not going to find me attractive anymore. And if you're outrightly stating like I'm into twinks or I'm into bears or whatever, you are setting a standard that's like, well, once you fall outside that category, like where do I fit in your life once I'm no longer in that category?
Yeah.
It seems like it would create some pressure to stay one weight regardless of what that was. Do you feel like that's accurate at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, in the community, like people joke like, yeah, in your 20s, you're a twink. And then like in your 30s, you need to transition to being a muscle gay, or commit to being like a bear gay. It's like, because it's like, yeah, that's, I guess when your metabolism slows down, I was like, I don't know, you can also just be yourself, just be the body that you have.
That's fascinating.
But, yeah.
What? Yeah.
I will say, by the way, when I went to that bar, when I went to the Eagle, and like I mentioned, I was with several straight friends. Pretty sure he won't care if I say this, but like I was with our friend Jared. And I remember like Jared looked at me and he's like, honestly, I've never felt more loved than I do right now in this club, like surrounded by all these men. Like everyone's so nice and complimentary. And I was like, I know. Weirdly, this is a new experience for me too.
Wow.
That's beautiful. That makes me want to recreate it for you, wherever.
For all of us.
I mean, yeah. I tried to. I went to the Eagle in LA, and it was a very different experience. I walked by a table, and there was a man who had probably 100 needles being inserted into his skin, and I was like, well, this is a different vibe than the one in New York.
Oh, one of the questions
he was getting the COVID vaccine. Yeah, been there.
And Preston let us know if we're like going late or whatever, but I know we're still roughly on time. One of the questions I wrote down, and maybe this is relevant because you said needles, and I was like, why? Since I moved to LA, I think about plastic surgery all the time. And it's not like my body image has changed. It's just like I think of it as any issue I have is fixable. And I don't know, I was reading this article that was like an interview with Cardi B this morning. And she was basically just like, yeah, I got my boobs done. And then I never thought about my boobs or felt self-conscious about my boobs again. And then I started thinking about my ass and I got my ass done. And I've been happy ever since. And I was like, wait, and it wasn't like she was bragging. It was like an interview where she was just like, yeah, whatever. I don't give a shit. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if there's like pressure, if Javi, you feel pressure to like get work done, or if there's like, I don't know how to drive like non-judgmental about people who choose to do that, because I don't give a shit. And like, I want to accept myself. Like there's some boundary in there that I don't see right now. I don't know.
I've never thought about getting work done. I weirdly have wow. Let me temper my words. I was about to say I have no dysphoria around my face. That makes it sound like I think I'm super hot, but I just like there's nothing about like my face where I'm like, oh, I need fillers or I need like like I've just never like thought about that stuff. Certainly there was a time where I was like, tell me more about this liposuction thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that's stuff that I've thought about. But yeah, no, I've never seriously thought about it just because it seems quite expensive. And yeah, I think I have the same thing. Like recently, like me and my boyfriend are taking the Bravo dive, and we've dived into a Real Housewives franchise, and like we both feel actually like Keith more than me, but he'll be like, has that person had work done? And I was like, it's just not a thing I noticed. Like I've never. Maybe they have, and like good for them, but I don't like. It's just not a thing that I pick up on very, very readily, and try not to have very much judgment around, because it's just like, if you can afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting how the different subcultures interact with it differently. Because also like on Drag Race, there are a bunch of people who have had like fillers done to make their drag more convincing.
Yeah.
I don't imagine that's like if you aren't heavy into drag something, because like I'm sure there's I don't know.
I will say though, I have a couple of friends who like I've done the thing you were talking about and like kind of checked in with them gently, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing steroids. And I was like, oh, people still do that. That's a thing. And then like I'll look at them and then I'll be like, well, like, how expensive are these steroids? Like, what, how difficult is it? I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to talk about, I don't want to think about that. But that is, I feel like there was like a pang of judgments at first. And then I was like, I mean, just be safe, I guess. I mean, that's different because there's like so many risks associated with it. But
I had a guy, a coworker once tell me, he goes, steroids are great. It's the fountain of youth. Nobody can find anything wrong with them.
Beautiful.
Doctors haven't been able to locate a single negative side effect. They're great. Love doing them.
That said, weird. Like the 2 Joe Rogan podcasts I've listened to, and he talks about human growth hormone, and I was like, well, that'll do. That sounds medical.
Speaking of Joe Rogan, living with someone who does a lot of like MMA, and then just also like he's like a Hollywood actor now. Okay, Sanjay
he's like into Joe Rogan, right?
He's into Joe Rogan.
Sanjay is Joe Rogan adjacent.
But he knows a lot about like steroid culture, and he'll point people out and be like, they definitely do steroids. And I'm like, I never thought about steroids, but he's like, every Avenger does steroids. There is not an action star you've ever seen. Chris Pratt did not get that way on his own. And then obviously, okay, he compares himself to other like Indian and Pakistani actors the most. So when Kumail got shredded, he was like, how many drugs was that? I can tell you what steroids he did. And it was just one of those things where I was like, he probably did. I mean, that's a really good question. Like, how does
that the Kumail transformation is?
It's you go from a comedian with a podcast called Indoor Kids to an Avenger.
Yeah.
You have done some drugs. No offense, Kumail, if you didn't. It's just that many of your peers have, and thus this is a safe assumption. He listens to the. I met him.
I mean, look, again, I, because I mean, that was like a whole thing. That was like a whole discourse on Twitter where like people were like, we're disappointed in Kumail, and I was like, but again, this is like my own body's dysmorphia, and I was like, but girl, look at that body.
I know.
I mean,
I do think it would, if in that situation, what would cause dysmorphia for me, being Emily, being with a person who becomes super attractive while you're dating with them, that would cause me an enormous. I have enough anxiety about dating someone who's really hot, just as is. But the idea of him then starting doing steroids and becoming a sex icon for the world would really. Are people going to talk about me like they do Hugh Jackman's wife? That's terrifying.
Yeah.
One thing that like a fact that I learned at one point that blew my mind, that honestly was helpful because I was like, oh, this is giving me permission to stop pursuing a 6-pack of abdominal muscles. And it was like, if you have a 6-pack, like if you were to pinch the skin on your stomach, it would be similar to pinching the skin on the back of your hand. And that was like such a reality check for me where I was like, oh, well, that's just not going to happen. That's truly like, I need to stop pursuing that goal. That's not going to happen.
So pinching the skin on the back of your hand, like, especially when it's flexed, is disgusting. I'm upset I just did that.
I wouldn't want that. Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you. That's why, the only plastic surgery I want is a penis reduction. Up top, just everybody. That was a joke. I have a small penis. Anyway, Javi, my computer is about to die. Confession alert.
Let's get off.
My laptop is about to run out of battery. I am at 17%. But Javi, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining. You were so much fun. I feel like having you and Katie helped to therapize me today. So thank you for your service, Javi. Any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to plug?
Let me just say, I'm a big fan of this show when I'm not on it. I listen. I download it every week. It's like hanging out with friends, and I'm real appreciative of being able to hang out with y'all tonight. Yes, I myself and Laura De La Fuente and Mace Carwick, we host Queer Town on this very Twitch channel that happens every other Friday. It's not happening this Friday because my understanding is that there's a Black History show going on that ColdTowne's putting on. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, Fridays at 9. And we just do a lot of pop culture shit talking. So that's a lot of fun. And there are rumors that we are going to start a podcast.
All right.
So be on the lookout for that. But
you will be the official podcast of our podcast. How about that?
Yeah.
Sister podcasts. I love it.
Yeah, and Javi, thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm sorry we didn't ask you as many pointed questions. But we'll be in touch because you're welcome to come back. Literally anytime. Literally anytime, I think.
Thank you. I feel very welcomed and loved here.
Well, thank you so much to our tech Preston. He's here every week and he doesn't get a lot of glory. And we really appreciate him. Check out all the podcasts on ColdTowne Radio. There are other ones. We're on all the. You can find a ColdTowne Radio page, for instance, on Facebook. But Stool Pigeon,
Candle Monroe,
Victrola. Oh, there's another one. Jen, A Night with the Stars. Last week's guest, Jen we talked about astrology. She has an astrology podcast.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Very exciting.
Check those out. Support all the businesses you heard here today, especially Garden 17.
Plug my private practice. Plug my personal trainer boyfriend. Trainwithkeith.com.
Did you say trainerkeith.com?
Trainwithkeith.com.
Trainwithkeith.com.
If you want a real low pressure trainer, he's your guy.
I love Keith. We have often whispered to each other when we started to feel socially anxious at parties we were both at. And that's the vibe I'm looking for in a trainer.
Yes.
Javier Ungo, private practice. We love it. Javier, I wish I could see you as a therapist, but tragically, you know all of my sexual partners. So
we've had our own therapy over drinks.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.